You know, I grew up believing that Native Americans were these peace-loving, no war-having sort of almost hippie-esque sort of people, right? I was told that there was no word in the Native American languages, whether it was the Toltec or the Omanek or, the Aztec, there was no word for war, and that these people were loving. They were so filled with compassion that when they would kill an animal in the hunt, they would thank the gods and they would mourn. They would shed a tear for the damn elk, right? For the moose, for the buffalo, before they consumed it in a righteous way. That's what I was raised to believe. And then on the other side, I was raised to believe that the whites were savages. They were animals. They were, obviously colonizers and slavers, and that was it. So the white man bad and the brown people good. And of course, black folk were just slaves. They were chased down, never sold into slavery at all. That never happened. That's fake news. There was no slave trade that was booming in the western side and the northern sides of Africa, as well as throughout Africa, but, that were connected to the Americas and Europe. There was no slave trade. Never happened. Again, Native Americans, peace-loving people. The white man is the one who came and ruined everything. Those were my beliefs before I started to educate myself on what the hell is actually going on. And I started to realize that, wait a minute, all of us are capable of atrocities. All of us are capable of, great harm. And all of us are capable of great good. And so the white man, who on one side is seen as a colonizer, etc., there was also the white man who said, wait a minute, this institution of slavery, this is immoral. This does not align with the natural law or God's law. The white man, right? There was a white man on one side trying to keep slavery, known as the Democratic Plantation, and the other trying to eradicate it, known as the Republican Party. So that got me into deeper and deeper research, right? I researched back into Africa and the slave trade. Wait a minute. So there was Africans who did not stand for slavery and others who were willing to sacrifice 4,000 slaves every single time a king lost their life. And so today I want to sit here and share this moment of discovery in real time with y'all with, how do I put this? The truth about most Native Americans that you did not know, or at least as the title reads, what your teacher didn't tell you about the Native Americans. And so let's get into it. If you want to watch it with me, gladly do so. I don't know what it is that's been going on my camera. It's doing like an autofocus. So I'm going to make sure to sort that out by the time I'm recording the next few videos. But right now, if it's going in and out, don't mind me. I'm still here, right? You're not losing your sight or nothing like that in real time. It is the camera. So don't mind that. But otherwise, get yourself a little something. Got myself a little Zen tea. Sometimes water, sometimes tea. I recommend a water, but if not, get yourself a tea. Let's get into it.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country.
Americans are taught that the people who once lived in what we now call America were stewards of the environment. They had
an ancient respect and connection to the land and water.
Disney movies made that their message.
I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name.
No, I don't think Native American hunters gave names to every rabbit in the woods around them. No, that's not a real thing that happened.
Political science professor Wilfred Riley's new book is Lies My Liberal Teacher Told Me.
We've gone into almost this cult-like romanticization.
When I was a kid, I never realized I was being taught by, these far left liberals. And I grew up in the Bay Area, the hub of wokeness, right? They manufacture wokeness like some sort of factory in bulk, in Costco-sized packaging. And so, yeah, the way that he said that just struck me right now. I was like, wait, a lot of those ideas that I was learning, and this is as far back as 2009, 8, 2010, that was some woke BS. That was some woke shit.
Of the natives who were great warriors and poets, but who hunted buffalo by driving herds of them off of 100-foot-tall cliffs.
Yet government guides for teachers say Native Americans lived in harmony with nature. There was love of every form of life. They didn't kill anything they couldn't use.
That's just objectively untrue. I mean, that would mean no young male warrior, no brave ever killed for sport. I mean, we just know that's false.
I heard that. I believed it.
Well, I believed it too because I was 8.
The best-selling book, Lies My Teacher Taught Me, loved by teachers and students alike.
Riley's new book is a response to this hugely popular book. It correctly points out that American textbooks and media portrayed Columbus simply as a hero.
Land out! Land out! Hooray for Admiral Columbus!
Textbooks ignored Columbus's brutality and enslavement of Indians. Columbus himself wrote about his slaves, saying, "Indians make all our food, extract gold from the mines, and perform all other labors." The book was valid, right? Kids were being taught that Columbus is wonderful.
I don't necessarily think your focus should be white and native atrocities against one another in a 6th grade class.
Today, students are rarely taught that natives also took slaves and considered them objects of wealth.
The morality of today.
I mean, if you think about even, I think it's common knowledge, but the Aztecs and some of the rituals they used to do to pull a man's heart out of his chest to sacrifice to the gods and let that man bleed out with no heart, sounds heartless to me. And again, I don't believe in any of this dark history of ours as human beings. All slavery, all of it is inhumane. All of it. If I was alive back in 1850, 1840, 1870, 70, 76, I would be an abolitionist. I would be standing on behalf of those who are being persecuted. I hate a bully. Simple as that. And I believe we are all created equal. That's why my message is what it is. You can call me a sellout or whatever, but I believe that you are as capable as anybody else. And anybody who tells you other than that, who says you cannot do because you're black and you're disenfranchised, that person is actually enabling or disabling you. Better yet put, they don't view you as an equal. They view you as somebody who needs a handout as opposed to somebody who maybe needs a hand up in the moment and who will perpetuate and carry on your own success. And you will take responsibility for your own outcomes in life. You are capable of that.
Day didn't exist anywhere in the world until about 60 years ago.
White people did murder the natives cruelly. What's the harm in sending a counter message?
You don't need a counter message. No one denies that whites and Native Americans killed each other. Sure, in 1970, in some southern schools, people might have been taught a jingoistic view of American history, but the reverse has been true for 40 years.
He says the old myths don't justify new ones, like the ones spread by today's social media influencers.
We know firsthand how to live in harmony with the natural world. In fact, we did so since time immemorial.
In reality, natives manipulated their environment. To make farming easier, they set big forest fires to clear land.
Giant forest fires. You're burning alive hundreds of thousands of small animals, slower running deer. You're probably killing members of other tribes. You're modifying the environment more bluntly.
U.S. government curriculum guides also claimed there was no prejudice, no major wars.
Nonsensical. In the Aztec capital, there were 90-foot towers of human skulls that were brought back from their defeated enemies.
Some tribes even practiced cannibalism, eating enemies they killed.
But still I cannot see if the savage one is me.
Yet the myth of peaceful natives lives on.
Disney was already on this woke propaganda way back. We didn't even recognize it. Now we do because they have boys who are girls and girls who are non-girls, but they're boys, but they have no gender because gender doesn't exist and it's a construct of society. You know what I mean? Disney's been on that. But this, again, some of these things are just being reconfirmed from the little bit of research that I've done into the natives. I'll be honest, I haven't done deep dives. That's why I want to learn in real time some of these things. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sometimes I find out, you know what, you're dead ass wrong. That's how I actually got to know who the Democratic Party really was, because I was one of them. And I got to researching for myself and came to realize, oh, well, you kind of picked the wrong side of history here, buddy. Everything ain't exactly what it seems here. And it's not to say that the Republicans and conservatives have been this perfect. No, it's not about that. I may subscribe to one side, but I still hold on to my own values. And the values are going to trump everything else, period. Period. That's how it should be. My own ration, my own logic, My ability to think for myself should trump over any sort of ideology that I've adopted for the sake of adaptation, for the sake of being a part of a collective. So, yeah, this is one of those moments where, again, a lot of the assumptions that I've made through the conclusions that I've made from the research I've done says, you know what? If Africans were slavers just as much as anybody else, then I'm pretty sure Native Americans wouldn't be too far off, since a lot of us as humans share a lot of the same sort of historic tropes, right? Whether it's cannibalism or whatever else it may be. This is not easy truth to accept for many of us, especially if these are your people that are, being talked about, or those you perceive to be your people, your ancestry, your lineage. But this truth needs to be brought up in order for us to have honest conversations and to eradicate this hate from our hearts. You think the white man did this, the white man did that, not realizing everybody was involved in this game. And all of it was despicable. All of it was inhumane. And we can do better. But when we use those as excuses for where we are right now in life, it doesn't serve anybody. Definitely not us. We're the first ones who meet our detriment in essence. We're the first ones who are enabled from doing the things we want to do in life to become all we want to become because we're so fixated on the white man. I see this just as much in, Native communities, Hispanic communities as I do in the so-called Black community. The blaming of the white man and not realizing we were all a part of a dirty history that we must make up for by doing better ourselves. That's the best we can do. We're not obliged to make up for grandma and granddaddy's sins, but we can at least do the best to break the generational mentalities and curses, in essence, those traumas that were created through time.
You don't know.
You're looking at people saying the absolute opposite of reality. When myths persist despite obvious objective reality, that's an indicator of a kind of brain virus among people who want the myth to be real.
Why does the myth of peaceful, harmonious living among Indians versus uniquely evil oppression by Europeans live on?
All this to me is just downstream from Marxism.
Marxism? Well, it is true that at colleges today, the most assigned economist is Karl Marx. Students are taught that Western values are bad. Critical race theory amplifies that.
White Americans have more because of racism.
Critical race theory is communist theory with the rich man replaced by the white man.
Westerners and white people being so evil. Why is it so popular?
I think that a lot of rich people don't like their father. There is a lot of dislike for our society among people who are pretty near the leadership class.
I think the people who teach these myths.
It's right. The people who have the most time for this, or the most grieved about this, are the ones who are in the middle to upper middle class. I was just saying this to my girl today. I said, it's incredible how it's not the people who are, really in the hood trying to come up, or the ones who are thriving, doing their thing. It is the ones who are in that upper middle class, or sometimes the children of the wealthy, who go to these institutions and believe themselves to be the moral superiors. They're looking for a sense of purpose. And so they create it out of basically these sorts of ideologies. How do they connect themselves to a struggle? How do they become a part of something meaningful? I will become, leader in an NGO. I'll become leader in a nonprofit. I'm going to help the disenfranchised or the poor colored people who cannot do for themselves. That's how they're moving through life. This is the sentiment of the white liberal who pushes this propaganda more than anybody else. More than anybody else. And then we buy into it and we say, you know what, you're right. And now we're sitting ducks. Now we're buying into a narrative that says we cannot. I'll be damned before I buy into that.
These myths mean well. They want minorities to feel included. But teachers should at least also teach that America's sins were not unique. That just about every society had slavery, cruel wars, and environmental destruction. The seldom taught good news is that in the last century, the West led the world in making things better.
The Geneva Convention saying that you can't abuse prisoners of war who tried to kill you, the last of those was signed in, I believe, 1949.
Most of the world is getting better. And the much maligned capitalist countries now are largely responsible for lifting people out of poverty.
Y'all don't want to hear that, though. Y'all don't want to talk about capitalism. Y'all want to bash capitalism. Bad capitalism. Y'all want to be social media socialist. Y'all want to be comment section communist, right? You don't want capitalism, not the free market that's allowed you all the conveniences of your current modern life. No. To hell with that. Let's go to socialism. Yeah. Ask the folks who are in genuine socialist countries how things are going. Real socialist countries. I'm not talking about these, part-time socialists, but they really have representative democracies and things that, no. Let's go to real socialism. Let's go to Zimbabwe. Let's go to Cuba, Venezuela. Let's go there and ask them how that worked out. I mean, even China, the king of communism itself, had to create free market capitalist zones within China where they could practice free market capitalism in order for them to thrive, not only survive. But y'all don't want to talk about that. I appreciate you for tapping into this video, and if you would like to show some love to the channel, make sure to click the link below titled Buy Me a Coffee, or you can send a Cash App, or, just keep showing up.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising. They see your light shine, that's why they so frustrated.